Penguin Random House Audio presents Yours, Eventually, a novel by Nura Maznavi. Read for you by Farah Kidwai. For Layla, Maliha, and Idris. Chapter 1. The Qawwali singer hit the note, then held it. He sang for so long that the audience stopped breathing. Finally, he inhaled. Murmurs rose from the crowd, murmurs that turned into cheers as he started up again, this time accompanied by the 12-piece ensemble sitting on the floor around him, on a stage adorned with swaths of silver and gold fabric. On cue, or perhaps because of the enthusiasm of the musicians and the vibrato of the singer, the tiny white lights inside the lanterns strung from one end of the stage to the other began to flicker. Asma barely noticed the lights, or how the guests packed into the backyard of her family's Palo Alto McMansion had already lost interest in the musicians. They had turned their attention back to their plates, piled high with fried appetizers swimming in pools of green and red chutney. Aunties gossiped about the latest engagements and other people's children, while uncles debated foreign policy and conspiracy theories. Asma couldn't take her eyes off her phone. Her older sister, Iman, had scheduled this party without checking the dates with her first, and Asma was on call for the hospital tonight. But instead of being an inconvenience, the prospect of being called away to work was a potential relief. Though she had grown up surrounded by this kind of money, and all the glitz, drama, and gossip that came with it, a night of accidental injuries and belligerent drunks in the emergency room was definitely more Asma's scene. She was bracing herself for intrusive questions from their guests about her outfit, appearance, marital status, or lack thereof, and praying that she could escape to work before the onslaught. Asma glanced up and saw her father's good friend and long-suffering accountant, Mr. Shafiq, weaving through the crowd toward her. He was dodging guests and buffet tables crowded with silver chafing dishes of meat. Lamb, beef, chicken, goat, fish. Was that duck? There was much more food than they had agreed on in their meetings with the caterer. Iman must have gone back and increased the order. Qawwali singers? This is a retirement party, not a wedding. Mr. Shafiq's usually slick and careful comb-over was tousled, and there was a deep crease between his eyebrows. He passed a crumpled napkin between his hands. Uncle, I had no idea this would be so over the top. Asma, you said you'd handle it. I said I'd try. But have you ever known anyone who can rein in my father and Iman when they get going? This won't do. This just won't do. The napkin in Mr. Shafiq's hand was in damp tatters. Asma gently pried it from his clenched fist and put her hand on his arm. Uncle, please go and eat. There's nothing more we can do about it tonight. Asma pushed Mr. Shafiq in the direction of the buffet. She understood his low-simmering panic about her family's finances. She shared it, in fact. Her father, Muhammad Ibrahim, was in denial and still behaving as if his rug import business were at the height of its success, when really the family was teetering on the edge of financial ruin. It had recently come to light that Mr. Ibrahim had put most of the family's money in an investment fund that turned out to be a Ponzi scheme. He'd lost nearly everything, and his only recourse now was to shut down his business and sell off its remaining assets, a move he was trying to cover with his supposed early retirement. Now, however, it seemed his lavish retirement party might bankrupt them yet. What are you wearing? Asma turned at the sound of her younger sister's voice. Mariam was standing behind her, arms crossed, a pointed look on her face. Asma had been so convinced that she'd be called into work that she hadn't bothered to figure out an outfit until just minutes before the first guest arrived. What's wrong with what I'm wearing? Asma smoothed down the fabric of her beige shalwar kameez. It had seemed fine when she put it on. It was the kind of understated outfit that demonstrated her lack of interest in the latest trends, because Asma had more important things to care about. But now, standing next to her younger sister who was wearing a bright turquoise number custom fit to her petite frame, Asma felt dowdy and decidedly out of fashion. Mariam responded with an eye roll. "Where's Iman?" Asma asked, glancing around the yard. "This is not what we discussed at all." "I don't think it's too bad," Mariam said. "Except that cow Auntie Asma was just asking me when I'm going to have more kids. I swear, if another auntie asks me if I have good news." Mariam trailed off with a threatening shake of her head, her hair recently cut into a sharp A-line bob catching in her gold hoop earrings. "I don't know why she's bugging me when you and Iman aren't even married." "She hasn't found me yet." Asma checked her phone again. Nothing. Could the ER really be that slow tonight of all nights? Or maybe she thinks I'm a lost cause. "Especially in that outfit," Mariam said, attention already elsewhere. "What is Hassan wearing?" Asma was relieved that Mariam's husband was now the focus of her fashion policing. Hassan stood across the yard, deep in conversation with a group of men. He wore a well-tailored charcoal suit. His hair covered in so much gel it looked as though he had just stepped out of the shower. "Is that a trick question?" asked Asma. "That's not the suit I laid out for him on the bed." "You lay his clothes out for him?" "I told him to wear his navy suit today because he needs to wear this suit tomorrow for his new headshots." "He can just wear it again tomorrow." Mariam looked at Asma like she'd suggested Hassan pose nude for the portrait. "You're joking, right?" Mariam stalked off toward her husband, narrowly missing the caterer rolling an ice sculpture of their father toward the stage. The sculpture had already started to melt, water dripping down the nose as though it were running. Perhaps for the best, Asma thought. Her father was terribly self-conscious about the size of his nose. Iman trailed the caterer, clutching the pallu of her silver chiffon sari, which had once belonged to their mother. Iman looked elegant and perfectly put together, as she always did. Her long hair was pulled back into a soft chignon at the nape of her neck, and her sari draped perfectly, accentuating her figure, kept in shape thanks to hours upon hours of hot yoga. Though Mariam had been the first Ibrahim daughter to marry and have children, Iman was still the clear favorite for a good match, despite her being a year shy of the dreaded 30. She'd nearly been engaged to the son of Mr. Ibrahim's financial advisor before the Ponzi scheme revelation had severed their relationship, and she was now a prime, if somewhat aged, marriage prospect for the men of their community. "Have you seen Rihanna, Auntie? I'm so pissed." Iman searched the backyard for their aunt, her thick, meticulously shaped eyebrows narrowed into a frown. "Iman," Asma said, ignoring her question, "did you increase the catering order? I thought we agreed you'd stick to the budget." "You worry too much," Iman replied. "It'll pay off in exposure, like a business expense." In the past few years, Iman had become the premier event planner in their community, and their family functions were always her signature events. But now, Asma was beginning to fear that, like their father, neither of her sisters really believed the gravity of the family's financial situation, despite the accounting books and spreadsheets that Asma and Mr. Shafiq had gone over with them several times. Uncle Shafiq was very concerned, Asma said. But Iman was distracted, wrapped up in some kind of drama that was unfolding in their midst. "You know how Rehanna Auntie insisted I invite Auntie Saira because we were inviting Auntie Shaheen?" She didn't wait for a response. "Well, I said fine because I just could not deal with the drama. But I was very careful to make sure they knew that Auntie Saira's daughter wasn't invited. And yet, here she is." Iman motioned to a group of young women a few yards away, though Asma wasn't sure which woman was the specific target of Iman's ire. It was difficult for her to keep track of who was in or out of Iman's good graces, or the ever-evolving social dynamics that governed events like this. "Does it matter?" Asma asked. "We have plenty of food and more than enough room." "Of course it matters. That trick didn't invite me to her graduation party." "That was 5 years ago. You need to let it go," Asma suggested, though she knew it was probably futile. As usual, the guest list for this event was less about gathering their closest family and friends than it was about payback, rewarding the loyalty of those who had invited the Ibrahims to their special occasions over the years.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?